Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Woody from Woody's Motivation, coming at you with a car video. I see a lot of other people do it right. I'm not following the crowd, but I guess it was a nice little opportune time. I had a little break in action on what I was doing today, so I'm gonna come at you with a little something. Here's what I'm gonna start with. This is another session of deep thinking. I always work to get the whole story before coming up with a judgment. And this is hard to do nowadays because of the way people think and how people react to just situations that they see. I mean, it automatically just that triggers. But there was a philosopher that came out with something that, and I would be paraphrasing it because I don't have it in front of me, but it's something I try to live by. But even when you know it, it's hard to live by. But he says, and the actual philosopher's name is Sun Tzu. And he wrote a book called The Art of War. And the quote was, if you know yourself and you know the enemy, if you know yourself and you know your enemy, then you need not fear the results of 100 battles. So basically what he's saying is, get to know the person that you're talking about. Get to know the situation. Get to know, what this person's all about before you pass judgment on them. There's some of you out here passing judgment on people you don't even know, just off hearsay. There's a lot of that going around especially on social media day. The social media, Facebook, IG, Twitter, you name it, it's there. There's a lot of that going around. People just passing off judgment on what they know. And it's real bad when you start talking about political issues, who's in office. I mean, you could probably take people from different parties and flip them over to the other side with the same opinion and keep them have their same opinions on the other side, and they'll go along with it just because they're in that party. I've seen that too. Either that or just overlook that part and just look at the good that person is putting out. I mean, you can't be like that. You have to know the whole story. You got to look at the big picture. I mean, I'm the kind of person, and there's not very many people that think the way I think. But I don't care if you're family, friend, loved one. I don't care. If you're wrong, you're wrong. There's been plenty of times I've been with my friends or family or close cousins or whatever, and they would start something. And then I get all the details in and come to find out it was their fault. I'm like, man, and I don't usually use profanity on here like that, but I'm like, man, if that dude would have beat your ass, you'd have deserved it for what you did. I'm not going to blame that dude for getting upset at something you did. You need to be more careful. You need to watch what you say. But it's just one of those things that people don't do these days. Like, somebody can walk up to a person now and be like, hey, that person did that to me. And they'll be like, all right, let's go beat his ass. Yeah, but you don't know what that person did. You don't know what the person that's coming to you saying. You don't know what they did to start it. That person could have been provoked. And that's one of the problems nowadays. I've seen people lose loved ones, people that they truly care about. I've seen people miss out on great relationships. I've seen people miss out on great business opportunities. I've seen people miss out on the love of their life over hearsay without looking at the big picture. I mean, it's crazy, but I'm telling the truth. So understand that when you looking at a situation and you got two parties involved that disagree, you have to take emotion out of it. You really do. And that's hard to do, especially if it's somebody that you really care about. But you want to defend your loved ones. I mean, if my son in the middle of a conflict with another kid, I want my son to be right. But that's not always the case. My son might have did something to provoke that kid to want to swing on him or whatever. And swing on a person is wrong regardless, but you never know. Some people got the right to defend themselves. But I've told my son a few times, my own son, I said, if that little boy would have beat your ass, you'd have deserved it for what you said to them, for what you did to them. That wasn't right. And I try to keep my son on the right path. And defending somebody doing something wrong doesn't make them learn from the situation. At the end of the day, what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. So when you're in a situation like that where you're trying to judge somebody, you need to judge it like a court of law type deal, where the judge sit there and listen to both parties, put the evidence on the table, and then they need to debrief. You let that swirl around your head for a little bit, then you form an opinion. Otherwise, you could be doing more harm than anything. You can be doing more harm than good to that person. You're not helping a person by telling them they're right and they're not. And most of you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I've lost out on a few friends in my life in situations like that because I didn't take their side on something. I'm sorry. I want to be as honest as possible. And I've actually lost out on friends, and they came back later on and said, man, you were right, man. I shouldn't have done that. So sometimes it still works out for the best. Some people it just take them a little longer to understand. But I've lost out on, I had a girl in my life that checked all the boxes for me. She was just about perfect in every way. The only issue was, she wanted me to agree with everything she said. And when I didn't, then that's when the problems come into play. I'm just being honest. I don't agree with it. And instead of saying, okay, well, I appreciate your opinion, or agree to disagree, she decided she wanted to go muddy my face up to the public. Well, not necessarily to the public, but to her friends, to give them a bias, even more of a biased situation towards me. And I've never had a reputation for being a bad person. Don't get me wrong, there's some people that's brought out the bad in me. And that's a whole nother video that I might do on later on about, good and bad, because, there's some people out there that might see me and run because they're afraid of me. But most of the people that know me are probably run and jump into my arms or give me a high five or handshake, because I've never really been the type of person that went out here to create enemies. But at the end of the day, you can't really say that this person is bad or this person is no good. You may have just brought out the worst in that person. That person could be a legitimately good person. And vice versa. You could be a good person and that person just brought bad out of you that day or during a stretch of days or weeks with who they are, and they just see you as a bad person. And I've had people walk up to me all the time and tell me, this person right here ain't no good. And, I got to know them as a person and figure out where they came from and who they were and found out they were amazing. I had a roommate who was a twin. And people called him the bad twin. But he really wasn't a bad person. He was going through some issues with his father leaving him and all that stuff. And what people didn't realize is he took it harder than the other, because he had two other brothers that lived with him. He took it harder than those two other brothers. And he was just deemed a bad person as a result of it. And his twin brother, was cool and calm. So they was like, yeah, you need to stay away from that twin. He the bad one. Yeah, he the good one. And over time, I just never got that from him. As much as I talked to him, I tried to see what these other people see, and I never saw it. And we became roommates at one time. We was younger. And we had some great times in our little apartment. We never really had any serious issues. And then later on in life, the truth actually unfolded. Because he went on to be a pretty successful man. And his brother is like, I don't know, walking around smoking weed and can't get his life together. It's crazy, but in the end, sometimes the truth comes out in the end. So don't be too quick to judge anybody unless you got all the evidence in front of you, because you'll be surprised. Either what you're missing out on or what might be missing out on you. So I'm just going to end it right there. Y'all have a blessed day, and I'll come back with some more content soon.